Protecting biodiversity as part of our project delivery is important to Fulton Hogan. In Taranaki, we're helping to restore a fish passage in the Waipuku stream on behalf of our client KiwiRail.
Some of our native fish are very weak swimmers, so they don't have the ability to get up fast flowing water that goes through culverts, etc., or up steep waterfalls. They can't leap through water like some exotic species can, so if there's a barrier, they get stuck downstream of that barrier and everything upstream is effectively eliminated from their habitat. Many of our native species are migratory, so they go to and from the sea to spawn. If you have a barrier like this one that they can't get past, it's not just affecting the fish species, it's actually affecting the entire ecosystem, because the fish interact and feed on insects. Terrestrial species also feed on insects and the fish themselves. So you're interrupting an entire ecosystem life cycle.
What we looked at here is a full width ramp. We looked at the geomorphic processes that were going on in the river. And this one here, a bit of a key aspect behind us, we've got a 1.5 metre historic weir supporting the foundations to a circa 100-year-old bridge. If we took that weir away, these foundations would go. So the dollar value in terms of replacing the whole bridge infrastructure pushed the whole project in a certain direction. The weir, the new rock ramp provides fish passage, but it also buttresses that historic weir and prevents erosion and scour at these existing bridge foundations.
So what are we doing here? We are allowing fish to migrate up rivers by removing a physical barrier for them. And one of the ways we're doing that is providing a natural path for them by placing riprap in front of a structure that was protecting a weir for a rail bridge for KiwiRail. And what will happen is we'll create a big kind of apron in front of a structure that, when it's all in place, it'll allow the water to travel on top, creating a nice path for fish to come back up the river. Yeah, so when we looked at this project, we were quite deliberate with how we would stage it and how we would break it up into sections. So we have worked our way away from the weir so that when we are building, we can assess and make sure that the weir is performing as it should as we move away. And then the other reason is, if you started downstream and you did have a flood event, there is you've placed rock that's quite exposed and quite vulnerable, whereas by building it close to the weir, it's protected as you're moving away from the weir. So right now we're about halfway through construction of this fish passage, and what we can see down here is a really good example of how we want the fish passage to perform and behave once completed. So you can see the water jumping and cascading nicely over the rock here. It's not disappearing into voids, it's beautifully flying over. But if we come down a little bit further, which is some of the work we're still completing, you can see the water disappearing into the rocks. So that's an example of where we'd be adding some of this smaller rock to really close up some of those voids, so we keep this cascade nature happening.
Well, I guess one of the key benefits of a full width rock ramp is the ability at a range of flows to provide a wetted margin like you see in front of us. So basically, a lot of our native species use that little wet margin to climb up a ramp like this rather than the middle of the flow. So the larger bodied fish would use the central area with the emergent boulders and turbulence, whereas our natives are more likely to use this wetted edge.
Pre and post monitoring is important because it lets us know if the work that we did is actually effective or not. So, did the fish pass that we installed, does it actually work, and does it produce results that we want? Does it provide fish passage? We collect eDNA as a means to do a sample of what is present in the environment. And eDNA presents a really cheap and effective opportunity to do a low impact survey of what is actually present in the environment.
From looking at this, I think these are all long fin eels, and they're the endemic. So the short fin is found in Australia as well, but long fin eels are found exclusively in New Zealand. But even these guys have trouble making enough a weir. The juvenile stage in alva is pretty good at climbing up the face of a dam, even under the water's surface tension. But big guys like that, they're sort of a bit limited when it comes to a sheer face.
Some of the things that we're doing on site to reduce environmental harm are having a nice clean access coming into site, so that involves using nice clean chip with no fines on it. being really strict on the rock that we accept to site, so making sure it's clean, it's not covered in small fines that when the water runs over it will disperse into the river. We've also got some silk fencing set up around the access, and then the other thing, so that's access to site. Secondly, it's about the plant that we bring to site. So we've worked really closely with our supplier in making sure that we've got clean, new equipment to site. We do 3 daily checks on our plant, so that's before it enters the river, while it's working, and then again towards the end of the day. So that's checking the hoses and all the hydraulic connections. The third thing that we're doing is we've got a spill kit on site, and we've also got spill booms strategically placed in the river so that if we do have the event of a spill, they can be deployed quickly and contain and capture any spill fluid we might have.
Right, the work that Fulton Hogan is undertaking now is going to open up actually a huge section of the river that has been inaccessible to some of these species for near 100 years. So this is pretty significant work that's being done that's going to open up about 27 river kilometers of habitat for these fish.
I think it's performing great. 3 years, a bit more that I've been involved, and to come down and see this from a weir that's stopping all sorts of fish getting anywhere, to have this rock ramp performing the way it is and opening up kilometres of streams is a fantastic result.